Here.
Councilmember Quinn. Here. Deputy Mayor Henderson. Mayor Myers-Campbell. Here.
The start of tonight's meeting, we have Tom Gilmore, who is going to run through our special event applications.
Good evening. We have 3 special events on the agenda tonight. First being the Asbury Park Pop Warner Cheer Bash, which is an event that we've done I think 4 years now. That's a city event that's we do in cooperation with the recreation program. Any questions on that? Next one is the Zombie Walk, which will take place October 4th. This is on the agenda. You already approved the special events application as far as the date was concerned. This is on the agenda tonight because they have added fireworks as part of the program.
At the meeting for special events we talked about, now they have your walk to handle overflow of trade. Did we decide what's over?
We have not. That meeting has not taken place.
All right.
And that's the reason that there was no fees on this application, because it really is just for fireworks. But just so everybody's aware, we are having a special meeting to discuss trash as far as that's concerned. So the applicant will be meeting with the Department of Public Works to create a plan, which will come back to the Special Events Committee for a final approval on that. Once that is done, we will calculate the fee for the whole event and present that back to the council. And the last one is the Bethel Church Luncheon, which will take place in the Transportation Center. That's the first time that event has taken place. So we just need approval that the church can use the Transportation Center. Any questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council, the next item on the agenda was the discussion for the 4th Avenue fence and the encroachment in the public right-of-way. There's been some an additional item in your package. The homeowner, who I understand may speak tonight during the public participation, is here this evening. Also, Don Samet provided earlier with the distribution of your agenda the ordinance outlining the requirements of front yard fences. After discussing with Don and several volunteer boards, Don and myself and several volunteer boards are going to come up with what we believe or how the city should act moving forward and with the current fences as they may encroach into the public right-of-way. So we're going to be providing the City Council what we believe is a well-reasoned approach subsequent to tonight's meeting. So there's no action that needs to be taken on this this evening. You should just know that there's additional information that's been added to your package. And the last item for the work session, we have the Honorable Dr. Michael Brentley, Mayor of Kentucky.
Thank you. The city manager told me to be brief, so I put my 5-page report behind me. I'll just take out 1 page. Asbury Park and Neptune has been working together for a long time on a number of things. Police department with crime in both areas, since we're sister communities. Shared service agreement. I just signed a resolution authorizing Neptune to make our shared services official. We'll be entering that. Wesley Lake Commission. We've been doing a number of things there with dredging and maintenance of Wesley Lake. We've had mutual cooperation. Wesley Lake has been hit with an invasion of a broadleaf pondweed. Professionals called it the dandelion of lakes. And it's an invasion. It's overgrowing the lake. The West Lake Commission has identified the problem and identified a solution. The commission has paid for the permit from DEP, which has been approved to apply herbicide to the lake, which will eliminate the problem for now. I've gotten complaints from residents on both sides and from businesses in Asbury Park, being that I'm a dentist in Asbury and I frequent the businesses in Asbury, and I've been getting a lot of complaints. And one business in particular, the paddle boat business that Linda here in the audience is the owner of, this threatens her business entirely, with the weeds getting caught on the rudders and such. Asbury Park, I'm sorry, Neptune, I've had Neptune approve $4,100 to pay for half of the herbicide to treat the lake, and I'm here asking Asbury Park to do the same so that we can take care of this problem, eradicate it, and solve the complaints, make Neptune and Asbury look at this lake in a more appealing way than they have in the past. And I know that we have more to do in Neptune and Asbury as far as mutual cooperation and anything. I found some things that we need to work on that I have already started. If anything else that Neptune and Asbury can work together on, let me know. And as mayor, I guarantee that I will find a solution for them as fast as I can. So basically, I'm asking your approval of the $4,100 to help us put the herbicide in the lake.
And that's just a temporary fix.
If other lakes have the same problem around, Sunset Lake being another one, if we apply the herbicide, we will kill the weed. Once we apply it, within one application, real shortly, it adheres to the leaves, and then over the next few days, it'll die and fall to the bottom and disintegrate. If we don't do that, the seeds will germinate, so next year we'll have even more, and it'll be more costly. So we want to, so in the future there will be a need for maintenance like the other lakes do. Western Lake hasn't had this problem in the past. A lot of reasons. The birds bringing seeds from other places, the lake is healthier than it's been, and there's been a list of 3 or 4 other reasons. So this is a maintenance thing that we're going to have to do that shouldn't be as costly as I'm told it won't be as costly as the first application.
But it's not like a long-term solution to the problem.
I don't know that there will be a permanent solution to the problem, because the other lakes have been having these problems for a while, and they do, the permit lasts for more than 1 year, and they do put applications down at least every year or when they see things going back.
So there is a maintenance factor, you say it's ongoing?
There is a maintenance factor, yes.
Another question, a couple of years ago, there were a lot of dead fish, and even Belmar had it this year. Was that a result of vegetation or lack of oxygen in the water?
I understand there's a lack of oxygen in Belmar, but Westlake Lake doesn't have that problem. And these weeds won't create that problem. And I forgot to mention that we will be stocking the lake with fish somewhere around September. And the public will, with a freshwater license, will be able to fish in Westlake Lake in the future. That's our goal. So these weeds won't hurt the fish. The herbicide won't hurt the fish. But these weeds do affect businesses and the residents, your citizens and ours, have been complaining daily to me. I don't know who else.
Before today during the day, I went by Sunset Lake. It's terrible. Sunset Lake has been treated. It's terrible. It's in worse shape than Wesley Lake that has not been treated. So there's no guarantee this is going to work.
It'll work. I don't know when they treated the lake, but we have Dr. Socia from Princeton Hydro.
Same people treat.
Yes, he treats that lake and other lakes. It will kill the weeds.
So it did in Sunset Lake. And I wish Susan was here because Susan made a presentation in the last meeting because she's on the Deal Lake Commission. The Deal Lake Commission had enough money where they did both Deal Lake and Sunset Lake. And Sunset Lake is twice as bad as Wesley Lake. And it did not work.
The specifics I don't know as far as where they put it down. I think Sunset was supposed to be a maintenance. I'm not sure what that is, but I've been assured by our professionals or those professionals that it will
So
do the job.
we're going to get a guarantee?
DEP approved this as a way to do it, and the way to go.
Well, again, it's not working in Sunset Lake.
John and I talked about how John Moore and I, only because I was asking questions about what goes into that lake, who's the biggest culprit in terms of the runoff, and maybe you can ask Dr. Brantley, because you could explain it better than me, but that we're the ones who put out some sort of filter. Well, you explain it, because you know better.
Asbury Park has put in all the base acres, so the top of the lake, the bottom of the lake, wherever, the floatables. This has nothing to do with the four leaf, but the floatables in Asbury Park no longer go into the lake. But Neptune has not addressed that question yet, and you know, I can understand. You have a lot, the main one by the bridge, in Dunkin' Donuts, but then you have a lot in Ocean Grove where the mesh nets are totally just gone. So any rainstorm, anything in the gutter, be it plastic cups, be it soup, be it anything, oil, right into the lake. So Asbury Park has addressed that issue. Different issue for leaf and the garbage going into the lake. Does Neptune have a plan to address that issue soon?
Let me say this first.
And going back to what Amy said, as much as like Deal Lake Commission charges per like square footage of, if you have 10,000 square feet in Asbury Park, you pay X amount. Ocean Township has 15,000 square feet, they pay Y amount. If Neptune has very little on Deal Lake, just the runoff, you pay very little.
Very little what?
Towards the dues for the Deal Lake Commission.
Asbury Neptune pays the same.
No, they don't. To Deal Lake.
Oh no, I don't know about Deal Lake.
Okay,
What's the
so
lake?
like Deal Lake is based on the amount of frontage on the lake, which to me has been backwards for generations. It should be the watershed. How much water is coming in from each community? The majority of the watershed for which is rainwater coming into that lake is Neptune, not Asbury Park. So it's just a little bit of background.
Well, we can get into those things. Let me say this. I've come here for mutual cooperation. I can talk about things like floatables in the lake, and I can say things similar to what you said, that the Asbury Park contributes more than Neptune. And this is what I'm hearing from my public works, who works in conjunction with your public works. And I hear a slightly different story. But I'm not here to say you do this and you don't do this, we do this and we don't do that. I'm here to talk about the broadleaf weed in the Wesley Lake that's affecting businesses and affecting the citizens of Asbury and Neptune, and more your businesses than on Neptune's side. Well, no, I've had patients who frequent Moonstruck and frequent the other restaurant on the Inn, down by the parking lot near on the Bond Street, and they frequent these restaurants, and they're complaining, and they're calling me, and they're calling other people around, sending emails. So the one business that is affecting as far as destroying is that, but the other business is as far as how it looks. Back to the other things that are not on point. There are things, as I mentioned in my comment, that there is need for more mutual agreement. And I think that if we work together, we can get those things solved. But there are a number of things. I found out the other day that the weir is maintained by Asbury and not Neptune. But I found out at Bush Lake meeting last night. Why is this? First I've heard. They said, well, Asbury has access, we don't. And they've been doing it for years. I said, well, call them and see if we can work something out. They've been called already, emailed today, and they'll work on that. That's mutual agreement. That's what I'm looking for Neptune residents and Asbury residents and Asbury businesses. And hopefully we can get that done.
What type of mutual agreement I know you're just one member of your council. What type of mutual agreement can you help us to unchain the gates?
That's another issue. That has
It's another issue, but it's a big issue.
Oh yeah, and I understand that issue, and it took several moving parts for that to come together and to happen in the first place, and I understand why it did, and now it takes a few moving issues for it to unhappen, and And I'm in agreement that it should be taken down, and I will work toward that, as I said in my speech in the beginning. Anything that needs to be done together with Asbury Neptune, I will be there to help push that forward. I had not in the past on that issue, but as I'm finding out that issue and other issues, I will be ready to continue our agreement, Neptune and Asbury. We need to work together on a number of fronts, and this is just one I'm bringing up tonight.
Can you just, I think we would all benefit if we have a cooperative relationship. Can you just talk about the, so we do this 4,000, kill these weeds, and then what is you referenced maintenance. So who takes care of the maintenance? Do we have any idea of the cost on that?
Specifically, I can't say, but I've been told by the professionals, and I tend to listen to them a little bit, that if we do the initial treatment next year, if we get growth, it won't be anywhere near what it is now. If we don't do the treatment next year, it'll be a lot more than it is now. So initial treatment later would be more costly than initial treatment now. Maintenance, Dr. Socia mentioned to me that they do maintenance as they see it's needed. So if it needs it this summer, they'll do it. If it doesn't need it, they won't. If there's not much growth, any material they have left over that they didn't put down, they can put it down because the permit is for more than 1 year. So we can use the same permit. We don't have to get another permit later.
And so we can sort of expect on an ongoing basis, maybe the first, third, fifth, seventh year, whatever, that we're going to be at the table again asking for a joint venture?
Yes, I would expect that. And the way it looks, it shouldn't be like this particular one as far as the cost. And that's why we want to do this, so that we can keep the cost down in the future.
So Doc, it's a good idea. I want to see the lake done. But and there's other things that we're talking about, the watershed and all the rest of it. We can talk about it and come to
absolutely. The watershed thing. There is a document when Neptune and Asbury came together to form the Western Lake Commission, and that describes the contribution. And it wasn't based on what you said it should be based on. It was based on as needed. It was mentioned in the wording. I think Jim Henry is here from the Western Lake Commission. He might be able to tell you more about what that says. But anything we need to work on, as we have been lately, we need to continue working on together. And I stand here to say that as mayor and as a committeeman, and as a Asbury Park businessman and a childhood resident of Asbury Park, who used to walk up and down that lake and see the goldfish and ride the paddle boats a long time ago. I want to see this corporation reach higher levels.
Let me ask a question, Mr. Kelly. If we were to vote on this, where would the monies come from?
Our public works other expense budget.
And I just want to ask Jack and Doc, we talked about Sunset Lake. This chemical was used in Sunset Lake, and it really is a mess. I want to do this. I want to see this lake taken care of, and Doc, we do need to work together. But is it going to do the same thing that happened in Sunset Lake? Because that lake is atrocious. I don't know how long ago that stuff was put in there, but it's kind of been weeks, hasn't it, that it's still looking like this. I want to do this. I just want to know. I want to know that this is going to work.
Have there been any other studies that they've done where they put this in other lakes in other locations? And do we have the results?
I don't know the studies, but in conversation with Dr. Socia, this has been effective where he uses it, and he uses it up and down the state in other lakes. If I can, I don't know if it's appropriate, see if Jim Henry has information on Sunset Lake. He's in the audience. He's a Western Lake Commission member.
It's fine with me.
Jim, do you want to speak about it? You don't have to if you don't want to, Jim. I know you're very reluctant to talk in public.
Is it on?
Yeah, but Dr. Brownlee is right. Sunset Lake is terrible. But if you look at Sunset Lake over the past 2 weeks, it's gotten appreciably better. The aerator went in, and that seemed to help a little bit, but the fire department also went in and did a lot of cleanup in the lake. And, but that doesn't really address the issue of Wesley Lake. The issue in Wesley Lake is that if the herbicide is not put down this year, the probabilities are that next year the growth will be substantially greater. If it's put down this year, there's a reasonable possibility that it will not be needed next year. It probably will be, but nowhere near the extent that it is this year. And I think you can apply the same rationale to Sunset. I think it's, you know, a comparable situation. But I think there's a lot of factors that went into this particular growth situation. Both Sunset Lake and Wesley Lake were drawn down this year in the spring. We had a reasonably warm weather early on with the low water levels. That, to me, seems to foster the growth of the algae or the weeds that are causing the problems. And what's really happened is that the quality in Wesley Lake has substantially increased. Water's gotten better because of the things that have taken place within the city. The storm drains that have been fixed. The water gets into the lake quicker with a lot less debris and other matters that make the water quality, degrade the water quality. So you're getting a situation where you have better water quality. The water was low for a period of time when these plants were just starting to grow. You had ideal conditions, but I think really you need to tackle the problem this year, and if it occurs again next year, the cost will be substantially less, I believe, because there'll be a lot less plant life that needs to be treated.
Thank you.
But any specific questions?
Just the Wesley Lake Commission, you talked about it at the meeting, they support doing it.
Yes, yeah.
And if I could say one thing about the water being drawn down.
Thank you, Jim.
With Sandy, there was a damage to the footing of the weir, and the water was draining out of the lakes. And as Mr. Kennedy mentioned, that contributed to it a little bit. And Asbury Park spent about $28,000 to fix that weir. We didn't, at the time, ask Neptune, Neptune did. Neptune didn't ask Asbury to contribute to that. But we want to see that lake in good shape, you know, for both of us, our citizens and our business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matters from City Council.
Councilman Moore.
Trying to be nice how I say this. It seems like every 2 weeks we do this, and to me it's kind of a waste of time. I should wait till the 3-minute process and get up and talk to the microphone, because at least then I would be on record. Because it seems everything I ask up here when it's a council person's time, it just goes into that big black hole and nothing gets done. So I'm going to ask one more time, and I'm going to ask for these to be from here on out. If I have any comments during the council person's time, I want to be part of the records. I would expect an answer or reply from the administration, the latest, the next council meeting. Okay, so we started this process, and it shouldn't be too hard, on using local labor, using local contractors. Where do we stand on that?
We have provided a listing of all the local contractors in all of the trades I mentioned earlier. Asbury and all the surrounding communities, we provided that list to both Madison, Marquette, and iStar. And we did recently receive a list from Madison Marquette of the local labor that they have hired. I'll distribute that to council.
Thank you. I've asked this in several meetings in a row. Where do we stand on leaf season? Where we found out last year we had no beginning and no ending to leaf season. We said we were going to address that before this year's leaf season. Leaf season.
Could you
is right
talk
around
into the
corner.
mic, please?
The mics don't work. The mics don't work.
That works.
Okay. Leaf season. Ever? No.
Still not coming.
No. We'll do the best you can.
Every meeting they don't work. Let me add that to my question.
That's not working, that's not working.
Okay.
That helps. Leaf season.
Good.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay, leaf season, right around the corner. We went through this last year. We did not have an ending date, so we had to extend it 2 to 3 weeks, and we said we were going to address it before this year's leaf season. Where do we stand on that?
I would advise the city engineer to have a schedule. I'll make sure that it is distributed this week. He was advised after the last meeting. He has not prepared one yet, but I will make sure that it gets distributed.
Believe it or not, snow's right around the corner. Do we have a plan for plowing and vehicles being moved each side so plowing is easier and cars can be readily put back and forth onto each side of the street to make it more accessible to the residents? If not, when's that going to be pulled?
I believe the signage does or is lacking. I don't have a snow schedule from the engineer. I also asked him for that last week as well. I hope to distribute that to council prior to the next meeting.
And a street paving schedule. I think we asked for.
Are you good?
No, while we're on that topic.
Okay, last one, recycling. I brought this out many meetings. Right now, we're doing recycling once a week. If nobody's shown me any evidence in 5 years, we're collecting more. I truthfully believe our tonnage grants have gone down. So why don't we go back to twice a month to save the manpower so they can be doing other things, not tied up every week on recycling. And it's just the wear and tear on 2 10-year-old garbage trucks, which when they break down, we do not have $500,000 in the budget to replace them. So the reason I'm asking these questions now is we're getting close to November when the calendar is going to be printed. So the residents know what's going on with leaf season, recycling, and snow removal. So it's got to be, addressed.
That will be a priority, so we can discuss it at the next meeting. It will be distributed prior to the next meeting.
Last question, I'm sorry. Where do we stand on the Springwood Avenue Park? On June the 5th, the engineer went out to bid for $107,000 to hire another engineer to design the park. I see no progress. What is the time frame?
I might be able to answer that. I do have a schedule, time frame schedule for the park, and I can get that to you, that Joe Kuna supplied to me, and I can get that to you tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Alfredo?
Just a couple of things, Jack. When a person applies for a permit, saying they're putting in a patio or a deck or whatever, what's a reasonable amount of time for them to expect to get an answer?
Well, I understand the process in our town is they first apply for a zoning permit, and then the zoning officer decides on whether the permit meets the zoning ordinance. I would think that a week should be sufficient.
So 2 months is like crazy.
I would agree with that, yes.
Yeah, I would too. This is happening too much. It's been happening for a while. But like everything else, if you don't complain, all of a sudden it slips back into that miasma of taking forever. I'll talk more about it later. Just another thing, the golf outing this past Thursday for the Recreation Department was great. Everybody had it was a beautiful day. They did a great job running it, and we raised some money. Thank you.
Councilwoman Quinn?
So just adding on the street paving plan, Jack, maybe we could get that from Joe as well if he's doing the other plans. And I want to second Councilman Moore's, call for essentially like workshop minutes, so I don't have to go through all my to-dos when I ask questions every time it comes to the city council. Concerns. I keep a running tab, but if those were kept somewhere on record, I think some of our lives would certainly be a little bit easier. So we got a personnel committee, and I'm hoping that we're going to come up with better hiring practices. And are they meeting, and can they start to come up with a more comprehensive plan in hiring?
Well, we do have our application for employment, which is very thorough. Coincidentally, only this past week did the governor sign legislation to ban the box, which will be effective March 1st, 2015, where on an application for employment, it can't ask the question, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Once after the first interview, we do a background check on all employees for any active warrants or current issues. We don't go past what may be active or what happened previously. So if a person has done their time and have become productive citizens, depending upon how sensitive their job is, of course, finance will do a more in-depth background check regarding bankruptcies. But for employees, we're only reviewing what may be currently outstanding against an applicant.
And in the hiring practices, though, we're looking at where people live, right? The concerns that we hire tremendously out of town. So the personnel or the hiring plan or whatever plan that the personnel committee and you guys are going to put together would put some sort of. There would be an opportunity to review, how are we hiring local and how can we do better?
Absolutely. I should have started with that. That is the basic premise, that we are absolutely executing based on City Council's direction, local talent.
So the last thing I wanted to talk about is a friend of mine, but also an Asbury Park resident who was really a pioneer in Asbury Park, died yesterday. His name was Charlie. He was the longtime manager of Georgie's. He was a person who never turned a benefit away. We had Toys for Tots there every year. He's raised thousands of dollars for local causes. He created an environment, I think, at Georgie's which didn't turn anyone away and made everybody feel really welcome. And I think, I would hope I speak for the entire council in offering our condolences to both his family, the Georgie's staff, and any and all of his friends and residents in Asbury Park.
I have a few items on the agenda that I'd like to talk about. First of all, the Senior Olympics is coming up, and I hope I'm talking loud enough so everyone can hear it. Okay. But the Senior Olympics is coming up. The deadline for getting the application is going to be this weekend. So for those of you that are interested, there are an array of different activities, anywhere from swimming to table tennis to billiards to golf, miniature golf, darts, a whole host of different activities. We would like Asbury Park represented in that. The other thing, there was a back-to-school party that the city put on, and it was fantastic. There were a lot of children that came out. They had a good time. There were games. There were games, there were foods, there were basketball games, etc. So it was a good day. Book bags were being given out. And so we're really happy about that. I'd like, Jack, if you would, for just a second, talk about our new hire in code enforcement.
The city hired Rob McCune, who is an attorney Rob has practiced locally probably for more than 20 years. Code enforcement has been without direction for quite some time. There were several people within the city that were supervising code on a temporary basis. Rob has a lot of experience in real estate transactions. He started, I believe, 2 weeks ago. In addition to supervising code enforcement and neighborhood preservation, he will be implementing the city ordinance on abandoned properties. And so we look to make sure that code enforcement is fair and abandoned properties are revitalized and no longer a scar on the city.
Also, the state legislature agreed to pass legislation that would make it harder, and it will be on the November ballot because Governor Christie signed it, for those hardened criminals to give the judges authority to keep them in jail much longer, and also to lower the bail for minor criminal offenses. One of the individuals that the governor did have in his presentation was a young man that from, I believe, Patterson, that was arrested. He served 4 months in jail, could not make the bail, and then was released. No charges. So he lost his job. And so come November, you can expect to see that on the November ballot for the entire state to vote on. One of the other things I wanted to mention is that the Quality of Life Committee has begun meeting, and I reach out to everyone. If you have a quality of life issue that you think needs to be addressed by the committee, please get that information to me. Call City Hall and leave the message with the city manager, secretary, and we certainly will look into that issue also. Last but not least, it'd be remiss if I did not mention what has occurred not only in Staten Island recently, Ferguson, Missouri, last week. And in talking about the issue, I cannot pass judgment because I wasn't there. I don't have enough information, but there is no question when we have prisons are primarily filled by African American and Latinos, when we have families that are not intact, when we have individuals that are hanging on the streets because either they don't have skills or they don't have jobs, then it creates, a problem. I do want to say this, we have made an effort, and we're going to make a stronger effort here in Asbury Park to try to work with our youth. We have the Community Development Initiative, which took July and August off, but we will be back meeting. As a matter of fact, Assistant Prosecutor Heath is there. He and I, stand up, Tom, if you will. Thank you. He and I co-chair the Community Development Initiative. CAN, Community Action Network, was formed last fall. They are also doing everything that they can to rectify some of the ills that we have here in the city of Asbury Park. I think Officer Williams is here. Officer Terry Williams, I think I saw him. Anyhow, he is working once again with the police cadets. And so that gives our youth an inside view of what a police officer experiences, and also hopefully a possible career choice as they go through being in the program. And I've been to some of their meetings. It's excellent training for the youth there. We also we have to do a better job of conflict resolution. When there is a situation between both the police officers and the community and the police officers, that we make sure that we, to the best of our ability, try to handle a situation so it does not escalate, so there is violent crime that results. That's it for me. Thank you.
Matters from the city manager.
Thank you. I just want to item the environmental and shade tree a group wanted me to mention that they'd like to put a modest fence around the community garden out back. Volunteers are a little bit frustrated. There's been some vandalism that has been occurring. The fence wouldn't exceed 4 feet in height, and they wanted to seek City Council's approval in being able to install a modest fence. Their fear is that if we don't put up a fence, there will be no volunteers, and volunteers have been growing food for the community, but some of the plants are just being ripped out completely, and some other vandalism that's occurring that we believe a fence may abate those problems.
Let me ask you a question. Is there a reason why they're coming to City Council first instead of going through the procedure?
I was told to me once that if they would come back to City Council first to request having a fence put up. It is city property, so I don't believe that they would be the right group, or they don't have the management responsibility to install a fence on city property. As a manager, I'm requesting City Council the consideration of installing a fence around the community garden.
And what's been happening over the years, I mean, we've always had a little bit of vandalism there, but it's absolutely stepped up the last 2 years. It's not, we have public beds where you can take a tomato, a zucchini, and then we have private beds, and what's happening in the private beds are, well, what's happening in all the beds, but the public beds, the Environmental Commission maintains. The private beds, people pay a fee to have it, they put their time into growing these vegetables, and then what's happening is the root is being pulled out. So it's not like a couple of tomatoes are being taken. The entire tomato plant, the entire cabbage plant, I mean, all of it's being uprooted. So I think we would be coming before the council with a visual and something like that. But I think the point is most if not all of the people who did the garden this year will not come back unless we start making some effort to curb some of the vandalism. And I will say, year after year, we talk about this idea of a fence, and year after year, we try not to do it. But unfortunately, this was absolutely our worst year.
That's all I have.
Matters from the city attorney.
Yes, a couple of quick items. I would just like to let the public know that the council is not going to be taking any action this evening on any of the matters that were addressed earlier during our executive session. You may note that there was a discussion during executive session with regard to a Springwood Avenue redeveloper agreement with the Michaels Development Company. That matter had been listed for potential action this evening on the regular session agenda, and action on that item is going to be deferred until our September 3rd council meeting, along with action on a companion resolution determining that a need exists for the project. That will also be deferred until September 3rd for further consideration by the council, because there are some revisions being made to that resolution. Council is still going to be moving forward, however, with the ordinances that are listed for a second reading and public hearing, all of which relate to the Springwood Avenue redevelopment area. And finally, at the last meeting, a question had been raised as to the status of the recodification project. I have had communication with Coded Systems, the company that is performing that project. They were almost ready to bring the enabling ordinance to the council for your consideration on introduction this evening. However, there were some last issues that they felt they needed to address in an orderly manner and could not make the agenda cutoff for Friday, so we're deferring that as well to the September 3rd council meeting. And we hope to have that enabling ordinance on the agenda for introduction at that meeting. And that's it. Thank you.
Move to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's take a 7-minute adjournment. 7 minutes.